Welcome everybody to the Lisa Parento Team Monthly Mastermind. I'm so thrilled to welcome an amazing guest. We have someone who has been with EXP for a while, but he has a really accomplished career. He's involved with a whole bunch of things. I think every time something comes up in his life, he'll be like, "Oh, let me start a company around that," and kind of does that. I actually met Bob. Bob Mangold came up. We did our very first event. It was like one of I think it was the first live realtor event back in the day. We did it on the North Shore of Boston. We did a luxury event. We had a panel, and it was the first time we were in a room, without masks, kind of. A lot of people wore masks, and it was all just kind of starting. And Bob came up for that event. And I think that's the first time, Bob, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the first time at least first time I really spent time with Bob. And I just, I was so impressed with his, the quickness and the speed with which he was constantly able to address folks' objections about kind of everything. And so he was participating in an event that we were all, many of us were a part of yesterday in Rockland. We were at an event called Your First $1 Million in Real Estate, organized by Tom, Marissa Trong, Dick Lee, all of our virtual assistants. An amazing event, sold out. Funny story, Marissa she said, I'm just going to oversell because, 10 to 20% of people don't show up. Well, everybody showed up, and what I understand is a whole bunch of people didn't get lunch. So that was good. The good news is we didn't even have enough lunch, which, I mean sincerely. It was an amazing event, high energy, so much fun. And one of the things, again, that came through was that Bob Mangold is a true gem in our EXP family, for our profession, I'm sure for his family as well. But he continues to give me tools and frames of reference that I would not have had. And I said, "Hey, Bob, would you be available to pop in to my mastermind on Friday?" We had another guest lined up, but I asked them to step aside and thought, well, Bob's still here. Let me see if I can get Bob to jump in. And he's actually on his way to the airport in a car. He said, "Sure, I'll make it work somehow." So I thought what we'd do for format, and welcome. It's so great to see everybody coming on. I love to see everyone. Um, we are the kind of the format I was thinking we would do is buyer objection, seller objection, agent objection, because Bob has been in the agent organization growth phase for quite a while, and he's amazing at those kinds of conversations. But I thought we'd start out, I'd throw out kind of a typical buyer in this market objection, a typical seller in this market objection, maybe a typical agent objection in this market, and then open it up and have you guys raise your hands and just start throwing stuff at him, because he loves that probably more than anything. Just, jumping right in and really answering people's questions. I get a lot of this from our direct sponsor, Tom Trong. But if I could say, Tom has a huge kindness streak. And I don't want to say Bob's not kind, but there's just a different approach with Mr. Mangold. So
we like to say Bob will tell you what he won't tell you what you want to hear. He'll tell you what you need to hear. How's that?
Yeah. Tom will do that too, but there's still, I think Tom's been. You're not married to Marissa, Bob, so I think maybe
I'm a South-sided Chicago guy that never leaves you.
Plus, there's the Marissa factor, which we always have to factor in. We're all lucky that Marissa Trong is in our lives, for sure. Every single person, all 29 people on this Zoom right now are very lucky that Marissa Trong is in our lives. So, with all that blabbing and being said, welcome to the Mastermind, the monthly Mastermind, Lisa Parento, and I'm thrilled to death to turn this over to Bob. Bob, tell us just in a couple words, kind of a little bit about the trajectory of your career with EXP, and we'll sort of start from there.
So we started 5 years ago. I waited a year to start recruiting. The closest I can calculate now, that waiting 1 year has cost me so far about $14 million. So big mistake. So if you get anything from this, don't wait. We currently have a little bit over 1,100 person group. We've got 43 or 44 qualifiers.
Nice.
So it's nice to get paid on the 7th year. And that's really it. So really, I'm in Massachusetts now. Really all I did is my friends asked me to come out. I come out. And so I can get up and talk and do these kind of things, and pretty simple. Um, so I always want to kind of help pay back and teach people different ways to think about our business, whether it's buyer, seller, the production side, or the attraction side. So that's really what I do.
Yeah, and yesterday, you really did give us a bunch of tools around the production side. I want to make sure we carve out 10 minutes though at the end. Bob has a really super formula around. It's kind of that if people are familiar with Jane Frederick's napkin presentation, it's kind of the numbers and the value of what you would need to save in order to be able to earn the amount of monthly recurring income. But Bob's got a really sweet and clear way to talk about that. I want to make sure we get to that, as well as he's got a great zero commission pitch to sellers, which I want to make sure we get a quick moment to chat about as well. But let's think about, okay, so a buyer objection in this market. And you guys, come up with one after I do. But let's say, one buyer objection that I'm constantly hearing, that I am hearing in this market is, hey, Bob, I want to buy a house on beautiful Cape Cod. I've been looking for a while now, a couple of years, and I see that the prices are continuing to go up. Uh, I was at least looking. I was around when the market crashed. I'm really worried about, where the market's going and appraisal values. And I just don't want to. I just don't want to overpay. I feel like no matter what, I'm overpaying right now. Help me figure out how I can
So,
possibly buy a house in this market, Bob.
so the good news is probably the best part of all, the prices are going up. What real estate does is it helps people build personal wealth. And so if you think back a year or 2 years ago, right, even before COVID, people were saying the same thing. It's like, oh, everything's overpriced. Well, what is that same house worth today? And then the only question is, what will it be worth 2 years from now? And then what have you lost in personal net worth and tax deductions? And so at the end of the day, there's three reasons people buy real estate. Number one is appreciation, which, again, I know a lot of people are afraid of that price appreciation. It's building tremendous amount of wealth, personal wealth for the average American. And by waiting, all you do is just agree to say, hey, I'm going to continue to let somebody else the tax break because I'll just keep renting when you can start building personal wealth. Every 2009 is a frame of reference, right? Well, just take any property and, Lisa, as an agent, you can go back and look at this. Look at what a property declined to in a certain area back in 2009 and ask yourself, what's it worth today? Because I can just give you in my own personal example, but my house went down to like $275,000 in the heart of 08 and 09. Now it's worth over 750.
Yeah, and that's actually really great to ground people to remember. I mean, maybe people can think about what their house was worth in that 04, 05, 06 time frame and what it's worth today.
Right. And now in full disclosure, I also, have different reports that I can run for people based and predicated completely off their zip code that'll show them, hey, based on the average projection over a 20-year period of time. So that encompasses 08 and 09, average home goes up X percent, whatever that is. So in 5 years, it's going to be worth Y, right? And so the only question is, do you want to capture that profit? Or do you want to keep letting your landlord capture that profit? It's the only decision you really have to make.
So many of my buyers, and Bob including, me in this role play, this is not my primary. I have a primary. I'm buying a vacation home and I just keep watching these prices on Cape Cod go up. Help me understand how the market is gonna how I'm gonna gain equity. What if this all comes crashing down in another year?
How long are you planning on keeping the house?
Oh, I'm gonna keep it for my family after hopefully I just plan to get a little, that's what everyone says. I plan to get a little place and maybe I'll retire down there. But for now we're just gonna use it a little bit. Family can come. So I imagine my family's gonna keep it. I'm not buying it to sell it.
Right. So think about it this way. If let's imagine in 2008, 2009, you owned a home in the market tank, but you had it paid off. It was free and clear. Would you have cared then?
Mm. So what's really important? Focus in on on asking them what's really important.
Yeah, hey, a market can go up and can go down, and '08 and '09 is certainly an anomaly in American history, but it certainly scarred people. There's no question. The the reality of it is, though, if we look at the picture, the number one source of wealth for the average American is their property. So if it goes up and it goes down, but you're not doing anything with it, and you want to keep it for generations, and it does go down for, let's say, 5 years, what do you care? As long as you can still afford it, what do you care? Because it'll go back up again, just like it did after '08 and '09. Now look at where prices are at in real estate in every market across the United States. Look at the pricing. And so as long as you're not looking to sell it, what difference does it make? See, my goal when I work with somebody, though, Lisa, is a little different than the average real estate agent. When I help somebody buy a house, my goal is to have that paid off for them in 7 to 10 years. And so at the end of the day, whatever, let's say it's $1 million property, I can actually turn that piece of real estate into, at that price, probably about $2.5 million in cash. So see, the American dream is buy a house, keep it for 30 years. My American dream is buy the house, pay it off in 7 to 10 years, use the money that you're paying to the mortgage to start investing. And at that price range, you'd probably have about $2.5 million in the bank at the end of 30 years. So the only question that you have to answer is, hey, do I want a house free and clear in 30 years, or do I want a house free and clear with a couple $1 million in cash in the bank? Now, that's what I do for people. I don't know if that's what your interest is, but if you think that would be something that you need help with, or you want assistance in helping you do that, then we can schedule a time to talk.
Got it. Yeah. So you're looking at really getting them comfortably ensconced and not worrying about what's going on in the environment. It's a great perspective.
Yeah, my goal is, and again, if somebody's savvy with money, so like full disclosure, people go, well, great, your house is paid off. It's like, hell no. And I'm buying more because you need the tax deduction. Because if I can borrow money at even 3 or 4, 5, 4.5%, 5%, well, I can get a better rate of return on that money, especially after tax, right? I might be borrowing that money at, say, 2% after tax. Well, I can do 2% on the money. But for the average person, paying that house off would be a gift from God, right? No mortgage payment in 7, 8, 9 years.
Yep. Yep. No, and I think that's really great. And I think that it also reminds me and maybe some others that I need to maybe sharpen up some of those financial conversational skills, which I do not typically go there. Like I
Right.
always think
So
it's not my lane.
typically what a buyer will say to me, they'll go, it sounds kind of like you're the Dave Ramsey of real estate. And I go, yeah, I don't agree with everything he does, but basically, yes.
Hmm.
And so I don't get viewed as a realtor. Now I'm a realtor and a lender, and I always have been. So I'm able to talk from both ends of that table. But that's how I talk to people, like I'm a financial advisor. Hey, my goal is real simple. If you work with Lisa, she's certainly a lovely lady, but if I can help you get a house paid off in 7 years, let's say, in the same 30-year period that Lisa helps you buy that house, well, if we could pay them off every 7 years in the same 30-year period, you could buy 4 houses, have them all paid off, live in one, collect rent on the others. Let's call it $1,500 a month in rent. That's $4,500 a month. You'd have to put away almost $4 million in the bank to be able to take out that kind of money every year or every month. What are the odds that you're going to save almost $4 million in the next 30 years? And they look at you and go,
I got
we're
it
going to
spent
happen.
4 times already, Bob.
So all I do is the way that I explain to people, I just teach you how to play adult Monopoly. That's all. It was cool. And it was a lot of fun when we were a kid, but now it's real deal. And you can do this.
I just got a great title for our next webinar with you, Bob. How to teach your clients to play adult Monopoly. Although it
Yeah.
kind of sounds a little racy, but that's okay. That'll be fun too.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That was great. Let me give you a typical seller objection right now. I actually just had this one.
Okay.
Lisa, I really want to hire you to sell my house. I think that you are a great agent. I think you are a great salesperson. But let me tell you, I know the market and you're going to sell it in a weekend. And I know you're going to spend some money on marketing, but this is not 5 years ago where there was weeks and months and all kinds of resources and people and whatever. where I felt more comfortable, with that 5% success fee, 6% success fee. Truthfully, Lisa, I think that that's an awful lot of, let's say it's a luxury. $80,000 on a $2 million house is an awful lot of money for a weekend. Help me understand how I'm gonna, I can't, I'm a financial advisor. I can't pay you that.
How much do you want to?
I want to pay 4%.
All right. How about if we do it at 3?
Perfect. I'll hire you. I'll put signs up in my yard for you.
Done deal, girl.
All right. Okay. So,
So that's that whole process that I talked about yesterday. So
okay.
that's what,
Yes.
11:15.
Yeah.
So yeah, a little hard to. So the way that we do that is our fee is 3%. If we have another agent come in, we'll offer them 3%, even though commission is getting severe compression across the United States, right? So I'm licensed in California. I will tell you the average buyer broker commission there is closer to 1.5 than 2%.
God.
So you're going to start seeing more and more of this commission compression happen because of the competition. So at the end of the day, if I want to take and pay a buyer broker agent, I'm just going to add it to the price. So let's say it was $1 million. The math is easy, right? And you bring an agent in, and let's say we were going to sell it at $1 million. We'll add the $30,000 in. And it's $1,030,000. And that's how we do it. And so all we do is disclose to the buyer and the seller how commissions are calculated. Listen, I think it's important that we tell buyers how the commissions that are paid. And I believe everybody should have, even when it's my listing, I believe everybody should have an agent representing them, right? This is a massive, asset accumulation process. It's a lot of legal technicalities, a lot of emotion in it. So if things go sideways, goofy things, deals fall apart for, you don't want the client being involved in that with all their emotions. So I believe they should have an agent. I just believe we should be front and honest with people about how transactions are paid and how it factors into the price. And when you explain it to the consumer that way, the buyer, they go, oh, because the way that I say it is I go, well, here's the thing, folks. I can just build it into the price and you'll never know it. You'll never understand it. You won't even see the money. But I believe that the best consumer is an educated consumer. And I have no qualms about telling people what I get paid and why I get paid to do that, because we're the ones who take on all the liability. And so at the end of the day, I believe that a buyer's agent should be involved. I just think we should be transparent in how it affects the price that you're paying for the house. What do you think? And then I just be quiet and look at them. And they go, well, yeah, that's pretty cool. All right, cool. That's how we do it. A little bit more detailed than that, but that's definitely the 30,000-foot overview.
So what you're saying is, if a buyer is off, the house is 1 million. Buyer offers $1 million. The truth is, the seller's only getting 950. Let's say if there's a 5% commission.
Correct.
So, and you're saying that number is not ever really discussed. First of all, because our commission on the sell side, the way it's structured, at least in Massachusetts, is that's between the listing agent and the seller. That does not get disclosed to anyone.
Yeah, I know.
Unless
why is it that way? Why is it that way?
I can't explain that. I can just tell you what conditions.
I know, because it's always been done that way, right? So
well,
the whole moral MOERHL, I encourage everybody to Google it. That whole civil lawsuit, it's a class action lawsuit against most of the main companies. And between that and the Department of Justice saying, no, you guys are going to stop doing it this way because we're going to make this transparent. All I can tell you, folks, is that number one, if you can't logically explain to people why it's done that way, then I can tell you that as an industry, we're going to lose that fight. And so at the end of the day, commissions are going to become transparent. So the only thing that we really have to ask ourselves, do we want to do it today or do we want to wait till they tell us? And there's really no way to do it, because what you'll see happen if they pass that rule, which they will, or they'll put NAR out of business because the Department of Justice has more money. To me, you'll just see the end of buyer brokerage, because they'll just go, well, hell, I'm going to go to the listing agent and then, I don't have to pay that commission. And you'll really want to be the listing agent then. And so we have to be looking at the industry, not as it was, not as it is today, but what's it going to be 5 years from now? And, the things that I'm talking about, guys, these are legal actions going on right now as we speak. And just to give you an example, NAR tried to have that moral lawsuit. Again, it sounds like MORAL. It's not. They tried to have that dismissed, and a federal judge in Chicago, because that's where NAR's based, slapped it down in like under 5 minutes and said, "You guys better figure this out because you're going to lose." NAR's original set of lawyers that they hired to defend this told NAR they better figure it out because they're going to lose. And what's going to happen, guys, if the government comes in and says, "Hey, you're going to start being transparent," and you don't have a logical way to explain it to people, you're going to say, "Hey, you're going to need to write me a check," or, in your case, Lisa, 3% of $1 million is $30,000 plus the money you're putting down. Can we all agree, guys? Nobody's stroking a check for $30,000 for you to get paid. So they're going to go directly to the listing agent. So if that happens and we don't have a better solution, I will just tell you, in my opinion, I have a better solution. Our EXP brokers, many of them have said to me, it's like, God, you know what? This will be the way real estate sold in the next 5 years. I agree with that. And so all I'm doing is I'm just getting out in front of it. Because we've been doing it this way for 4 years, and it's ridiculously successful for those people that do it and do it right.
Let me frame it, Bob. Thank you. Let me frame it a different way. So using the exact same scenario, the seller says 4%. At that point in time, you can say, great, I'll do it for 4%. My agency will take 2.5%. We'll pay out 1.5% to the buyer's agent. If you want to do it for 3%, then you take the listing in at 2.5% and you pay out 0.5% for a buyer agency. The buyer's agent's job is then to get the other 2% from their buyer. Fully disclosed, no problemo.
Right. You have the ability to do whatever you want. So when Lisa said, although we don't call it zero commission, Lisa, so don't get in the habit of doing it. And mostly because the Department of the real estate commissioner in Arizona called me about probably a year and a half ago and said, I'd really like you to stop using that term. He goes, I get what you're doing. And he goes, I think it's actually really cool. But, my job's to protect the consumer, and zero commission sounds like a gimmick. But what Tom just said is 100% right. We have the money to play with. Like if somebody goes, I don't want to pay any commission. Cool. I'll just add 6% to the sales price. I can do whatever I want. In California, we'll take 3.5 and pay 2.5 because in California, like we have stagers that'll stage the house and they get 0.5% at closing. So the buyer pays it. My guys just get paid 3.5%, and then they pay the buyer's agent 2.5%, and that extra 0.5% goes to the stagers. Because in California, you really need to stage houses. They're a little bougie out there.
Yeah, a little bougie.
Because, and Lisa, one more thing is, the thing is, the seller's asking me that question because what they're thinking is, I'm just going to put it for sale by owner myself. Well, that's exactly what they're thinking. Let's just say it, right? Good job yourself, go for it. Take on all the liabilities, the marketing, everything. You're not going to have access to 1.4 million realtors in the U.S., 20 million real estate professionals throughout the world if you're with EXP, blah, 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 right? Go for it. Otherwise, I'd be happy to do that because I'm only earning 2.5 or 3%.
And all that's true, folks. But the truth is, if you call a FSBO, and the way that we frame it, right, because as you heard me say yesterday, the words we use matter, right? So we don't call it a commission, but you call a FSBO and say, hey, if I had a buyer for you, would you be open to paying a 3%, or would you be open to paying the standard 3% finder's fee? Because the FSBO doesn't want to pay a commission, so don't call it a commission.
Right.
But what I can tell you is 95% of the FSBOs go yes. Now, sometimes they'll go, I'd pay 2. All right, cool. I'll just add 4% to the price and I'm going to get it. I don't care. So I don't even have to go into that, right? And they'll go, well, hell, I really don't need a realtor. I can sell it over the weekend. I go, you know what? I absolutely agree with you. I actually do believe you will. The only question I ask you to consider is at what price? If I could get you, because I only do 14-day listings, if I could get you $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 more, depending on what price they're asking, then it would take us an extra 12 days. Are you willing to wait 12 days to get an extra 50,000? Nobody's ever said no to that. And so the standard objection stuff all just goes away that way.
Yeah. Well, I'm remembering my ABR class, right? When we first took buyer agency, when we first had that class, you got all fired up about the fact that you were going to get your 3%. Excuse me, and we're supposed to be talking about apples, but you were going to get your 3 apples in any situation, and it was your responsibility. You had to believe you were going to earn and were worth that 3%, and you had to build that into your contract. And you had to talk to buyers in that buyer consultation or as you begin to take them around to properties that, and hope that, or hope, well, hope, yeah, but plan that the buyers will continue to see the value of working with you, your negotiation skills. I'm going to give you a great link to some great negotiation resources at the end of today. Your negotiation skills, your ability to work with other agents, all of that you're going to be worth. Because again, as Bob keeps saying, and what we need to get our heads around more comfortably is that the buyer is paying it all anyway.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. So
we can either be upfront and transparent with them, or we can keep it in the closet. And all I'm going to tell you is between the lawsuit, the Department of Justice, and the Consumer Federation of America, 5 million members of that, saying, no, this is BS, that we're not, even if we won these lawsuits, folks, we're still going to lose. Because the consumer is educated. And the difference between real estate now and, say, 20 years ago, it used to be that, like when I bought my first house, real estate agents only showed their own listing, right? I mean, there was no MLS in that way. Well, guess what? People don't need us to access properties anymore, right? How many of you guys get this call? Hey, I've seen this house on Zillow. Can we go look at it? Mm-hmm. And so what happens is we don't control that. The truth is, if you look at the views that you get on these automated searches you set up, nobody looks at those anymore, guys. They're going to Zillow. So NAR ceded control of inventory to Zillow. That genie's never going back in the bottle. And the consumer perceives it like, wait a second, I need you, and there's a value to what you do, but I'm the one finding the house. I'm the one driving around. I don't think you deserve $30,000 on $1 million property. I'll give you 10. Guys, if I went to 100 agents right now and said, you know what, I'm buying a house, but I only want you to take $10,000 commission out of 100, how many of them would say, yeah, I'll do it for that? That's just competition of the market because they can't have a value prop that justifies 30 grand. That's just what's going to happen. You may be awesome at doing it, but that's what the market's going to dictate, right? Just like people go, oh, well, Redfin will do it for 1%. And you can go, well, yeah, but what are they going to sell it for? And la, 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 and they can't even negotiate their own commission. Like, guys, the consumer doesn't care about that stuff. The consumer just goes, yeah, I'm going to save money here.
Yep.
And they don't understand what goes into a real estate transaction. So you trying to fight it on things that they don't know or understand is a losing cause.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. And there are agents that will take it for less. I mean, the argument that this seller gave me was, I've got somebody right now that will take it at 4.
Totally. And somebody will.
In my market, and my market's pretty conservative. We are still getting, 6 for some things, 5.5.
That's just the way it's gonna work, folks. It's not good or bad. It is what it is. And somebody will always take that listing at 1%. Next thing it'll be at 0.5%, for God's sakes. We have in Phoenix, we have every discounter known to man. You got like Rex and Homey, and all of them will do it for $2,500. I'm not doing listings for $2,500.
Yeah, no kidding.
So you have to create a process, right? Selling real estate, and I'm literally on the plane back home, I'm going to be writing content for this process. And one of the things that I talked about is that, you have to talk to people in a way that they understand. And so I hear people go, oh, Bob, you could sell ice water to Eskimos. I don't sell anything. I just teach them. I only teach how the process works, right? And then I let them decide what's best for them. Now, I'm pretty skilled at being able to maneuver those into questions where you have to be really dumb to say no to, right? Like, if I could show you how to pay this house off in 7 to 10 years, save $225,000 in interest, would you want to see how that works, right? Like, who's going to say no to that?
Yep.
And so we just have to accept that the world's changing. Zillow's changed the game for us now. They can find their own houses. They don't need us like they need it. They needed us before. And so everything Lisa said is all true, and I do agree with it. But at the end of the day, the consumer does not understand it, because for how many decades have they been told, we work as a buyer's agent for free? No, we didn't. They raised the price of the house to pay the buyer's agent. Mm-hmm. to cover the cost. We just never told us. And that's what the government in these lawsuits are saying. Like, no, you need to tell people what it is, because then they can negotiate for a better deal and they'd save billions of dollars. And the reality of it is they're right. So we're fighting a battle that we're going to lose.
And I think even if you don't want to leave with that, guys, become more comfortable with the concepts. Maybe I'm serious, Bob. I'd love to have you back and do a whole hour on agent monopoly. It'll be great. And we'll just, really dig into this a little bit more. But do you mind if we shift gears to agent objectives? Because I know a whole bunch of agents on here now.
Girl. It's your call. You're in control.
That's what so many of us, the real estate piece, I think a lot of us have, but those of us that are dipping our toes or even more aggressively working with building our revenue share organization, I'll speak for myself, are constantly daunted by people's objections, and then me finding myself going, oh, but EXP has offices. Oh, but I'm always like being defensive, and before I realize it's coming out of my mouth. So I'd love to have some more context and experience from you. So I already got a couple of one objection. Kareen, you had one in the chat. You want to jump in?
Yes. Hi. Yep.
Hey there.
So, hey, Bob. Here, I feel like here, especially on the Cape, agents have their heels dug into where they're at. They're very comfortable. They love their agency and, the whole office thing. They love going to the office. They love the peeps that they work with. So I feel like we are, constantly faced with that in our marketplace. Like, oh, I'm good. I love where I'm at. Oh, you drank the Kool-Aid.
But you can't say that.
What's that?
So you can't say that.
No. They say that to me.
Yeah. So they're telling you that you drank the EXP Kool-Aid?
Yes. Yep.
I go, well, that's interesting. Usually I get it in cherry flavor. So I just make a joke out of something like that. But they go, oh, I'm really happy where I'm at. And I just go, wow. I'll be honest with you. I'm kind of sad to hear that. And they just like, it kind of takes them off balance, right? And it's like, here's the thing. My question for you would be, why aren't you ecstatic? I mean, happy sounds like you're comfortable. Comfort equals, the status quo. Are you 1,000% comfortable with where you're at in life financially and lifestyle, that you just want to stay in that rut?
Great response.
And then do you see how you just be quiet and don't answer? And then,
so I love that, guys. But here's Kareen. Here's the thing. What Bob is teaching you is Bob and I talked about this at breakfast. If you ask us to jump on a 3-way call with you, we probably would not say that to your agent prospect. I can tell you, Bob and I have 100% confidence we would say it to our tier 1 prospects. So until you believe what Bob is saying, and until you believe it for yourself, no matter how many times you hear this objection handling, are you comfortable saying that? Do you believe in this platform enough to know that you can help them be ecstatic about their business?
Yeah.
And the truth is, guys, you can control the objections based on the questions you ask. So listen, I always jump on and do these and whatever. People find it entertaining or whatever, but I don't ever hear this stuff because I don't ask the questions that would facilitate that, right? Like, hey, ever heard of EXP? Let me tell you about the rev share, the stock, I would just go, hey, Corinne, if I could actually share, my coach is doing an event next Thursday at noon, and he's going to share the business plan that over the last 5 years, he's been able to increase his personal net worth by almost $50 million. And he allowed me to invite 2 people to it. I just thought you would want to see a business plan like that. Is it something you'd want to see?
Yeah, that's a great way to get them to say yes or no.
Right. So it's just a different question. The other one that I use a lot is, hey, if I could show you how over the next 24 to 36 months, we could double your production by becoming listing centric. And then over the course of the next 2 years, put you in a position that you can start developing referral fee income so that 24 to 36 months from now, you could replace your transaction income with referral fee income. Is that something you'd be open to? Who says no to that?
And I think the important point that Tom just made is that we have to be able to explain those pieces to people. We have to be able to explain how we're going to, what the tools in eXp Realty are that will allow them to double their production.
Well, and the truth is, you just have to talk to them up front. So again, when we do these things, we make these different assumptions like, hey, I'd walk up to an agent on the street and do that. I wouldn't do that, right? So it is about the relationship. And I just started asking them questions about their business. Hey, Lisa, tell me a little bit about your business, right? And then whatever that is will lead to a conversation. But ultimately, here's how I do it. I will get to the point where I ask this question. Hey, Lisa, if I could solve the biggest headache in your business right now, what would that be? Now, just so you know, the number one answer is always lead generation. So, that's interesting. What are you doing about that now? That's the second question. And they can say whatever they're going to say. And then you go, well, if that doesn't work out, what next? And they can say whatever they say. The truth is, I almost don't care what they say. And I go, well, that's interesting. You know what? I've got some ideas on that. I'm not 100% sure. I don't have time now. I've got another meeting I've got to head to. Again, if I was having coffee, Zoom, whatever it would be. But how about if we do this? How about I put together a couple ideas for you on lead generation, and we can circle back. You available next Tuesday at 2? And I'll give you some ideas about things you could do. I didn't say anything about EXP. I probably will meet with them next week. I probably still won't say anything about EXP. I just want to start delivering value, get them to start thinking about things and become their friend. And for me, I'll become their coach before I recruit them.
So in that follow-up meeting, are you talking about KV Core? Bob, my problem is I love my brokerage, love my office. It's very elegant. We have once a month meetings. They're great. But I never get any leads from my company. And just like everybody else, I am paying now a little bit of leads. I don't want to pay for leads. They're not that great. That's my biggest problem.
So at least what I teach, and I don't know if this would work for you or not, Lisa, I teach people to focus on listings, and then we generate hundreds of buyers leads from these listings.
Got it.
And we don't pay a penny for them. Is that something you'd be open to look at?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. And then I go into that. And I go into the listing process. Now I might do it there. I might just invite them to watch a video. I invite them to a lunch and learn, things like that. And that's what I'll do. Hang on one sec. Do you know, does American go out of this terminal too? We're going to go to the next one then? Okay. So I don't have to walk. Well, Brenna's going to Delta. So that's you. If I don't have to walk across there, I'd be much appreciative. I'm old now. So, all right, we got that. All right, hang on one sec, guys.
Sure.
That's what you do when you do this stuff live on the run. All right, girl.
No kidding. All right. So with my group now, who would like to do a role play? Who has an objection for agent that you've gotten recently? Who'd like to do a role play with Bob? Raise your hand.
So throw it out.
Yeah. Do I see any hands? Come on, Sue Ann. Come on, Lee.
Dahlia sells New Jersey, has her hand up.
Okay. Yeah, I can't. Oh, yeah, there. Go ahead, Dahlia. Selling New Jersey. You go, girl.
I'm not really good at this stuff, but I could try.
That's what we're here for.
Oh, okay.
Here's the thing. Stop telling yourself that.
Yeah, thank you. Yet.
You'll believe
it. Okay, so I had a role. I had a listing, like a phone call yesterday regarding a mansion, and like a mini mansion in Patterson for $800,000. So I called the owner. He's in Florida, so he told me that he's gonna come in May. So I just wanted to prepare for that, but I don't know. I told him like that that we charge 4%. So I think he was like trying to count the 400. He said that his house is worth 800,000. So yeah, like I don't know. So I guess I don't know what to do from there.
What's your objection? So what we're doing now with Bob Dahlia is throwing out some objections.
To get
Buyers,
the listing.
agent objections. Go ahead, Bob, if you want to jump in and
So, well,
address.
my question for you would be right now is you sit as an agent.
What was that?
If you have to go on a listing presentation, what are you telling people? So you have to figure out what you do as an agent, and then you have to take and provide that value and be able to have a value statement to say, well, this is what I do. I'm a little different than the average realtor. This is what I do. So if you just go in and you talk about your company or whatever, what marketing you do, all that stuff, I can get out, sit here and do all that stuff. You're probably not going to get very many, right? Typically, this is what a listing presentation sounds like in real estate. Hey, let me tell you about me. I'm really spectacular. I'm in the top 1% nationwide. I sell more houses here than anybody else. I'm with XYZ. We've been in business for 50 years. We're an American icon name. Let me tell you about my marketing. I'm going to do some Facebook ads. I'm going to post your property on like 300 websites that you've never heard of and nobody ever visits. But that's my marketing plan.
Woo, sign me up.
Right? That's what it sounds like to a consumer. Man, they don't care about your marketing plan. They don't understand anything. And trust me, we'll still do the same marketing, post them these 300 stupid websites because it's only 2 minutes to do it, right? So why not? But you have to have a sales, like what is your sales process? What's your strategy to sell a house? And is it better than everybody else's? Or is it at least different? Because if you just go in as like, and you do what I just described, now they make it sound nicer than that, right? But basically that's just, you just remain a commodity. And the other thing is that you committed to a commission before you ever seen the house. If it's a McMansion, how do you know what you'll have to do in terms of marketing? Right. And you got an $8,000 commission, whether you pay your capped or not capped, any of that. What are you going to spend on marketing typically? Really, do you want to do 1% listings? And, I know agents who do 1% listings all day long and they make good money, but man, they got to do like 100 transactions a year. Right. Do you really want to work that hard? And so the choice is, what do you do to become different? And what do you use to improve your craft, right? So what was one of the first questions I asked yesterday? How many of you guys had a listing presentation? What went up, 10 or 12 hands in the room? Well, what do the other 88 people do when they go to a listing presentation? If the answer is, well, I don't know, that's why they're not listing agents. If you want to focus on listings, you have to work on that skill. And so you have to have a plan. I don't know what yours looks like right now, but I know one thing, I never commit to commission on the phone other than the way I do it. Like if somebody really wants to do that on the phone, I go, well, I can do it. What do you want to pay? 4%. Sweet, I can do it for 3. Could I say, sweet, we could do it for 4? Absolutely. Then I could get paid on 4 on the backside. So a lot of my agents in California do that. So it's an easy conversation. Now you've got them at ease, but it's really not about the commission that you pay, sir. It's about the process that we use to sell your house. My goal is real simple. I want to get your house under contract in 14 days. I want to get you the absolute highest market value. I don't want you to have any headaches and hassle. I'm not even putting a lockbox on your property. And at the end of the day, my goal is to take and make sure that you walk away from the closing table netting more money by working with me than any other real estate agent. Is there anything else you'd want from an agent?
Wow, that's good.
Yeah.
The net, I like that.
Talking about the net, I think, Bob, is hugely important and something we need to continue to really get our hands around.
And the other thing too, so as long as I'm talking on that, the other thing that's uncomfortable is the price of the house, right? So commission and price are the two uncomfortable things in a listing presentation. So the reality is, who determines the price of a house?
The buyer.
Always. If you have any doubt, we're living in a market like that, right? We're selling properties for $100,000 more than if you look at comps and appraisal and everything else and their worth. We have people coming from California slapping $100,000 down like it's nothing. They're the ones who determine the market value, not the seller, not my little CMA, not the appraiser. So my question is for you as a real estate agent, why do you set a price? Because here's what's going to work. Here's how it's going to work. Whatever price you set, In a standard or traditional listing, you might get a little bit less, you might get a little bit more. Why don't we set a low ceiling, right, for the price, drive a lot of traffic to the place and see what the market's willing to bear, and give people the ability to pay what they need to pay to buy your house? And so instead of me establishing a price that people go a little bit up or a little bit down from, why don't we drive a ton of people in, create demand for your house? The system and the process that I use creates urgency because we only give them 3 days after an open house to submit an offer. We create scarcity by not putting a lockbox on. They can only come to the open house. It's the only time they can see their house. And then the process that we utilize to determine value is completely transparent. So no highest and best blind offers. Whoever wants the house can get it. And that's how we're able to take and drive the prices that we do. We call it the DUST formula, D-U-S-T. That's the process that I use to sell a house. Does that make sense to you?
What's the DUST stand for, Bob?
Demand. I have to create demand. My only job in the real estate transaction is to create demand. My negotiating skills mean nothing the way that I do this. So we don't even talk about that. So demand, my job is very simple. I have to create demand for your house. And part of the way that I do that is I create a sense of urgency, right? You got to act fast. And then we make it scarce. You can't go in and look at the house. Trust me, we have agents calling us all the time. This bullshit. I want to go in and see that house, blah, 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 blah. Tough, you can't. So I have a survey that was done by Open Door and OfferPad. 77% of all consumers are willing to take and give up 5 to 10% of their equity just to avoid the hassle of a traditional listing.
Okay.
Think about that. 3 out of 4 people would give up, let's say it's $1 million on Cape Cod. They're willing to give away 50 to 100 grand to stop the headache. I can stop it. I just don't put a lockbox on and you can't go look at it. So now I eliminated the hassle. So I'm already ahead. 3 out of 4 people already love me because, we ain't doing that. What do I do if an agent knocks at the door? Because we've had that happen. Don't answer.
So Bob, is this why your open houses have like 400 plus people?
No shit. Sorry.
With COVID, that's just not going to fly here.
You know what? See, guys, all this crap that you put in your head, pardon my French, is crap. We were getting 400 and 500 people in California in COVID that you couldn't even hold open houses by law. So you know what we did? We didn't sit there and go, oh, woe is me, I'm the realtor. We started using Calendly, and you had to schedule appointments on Saturday and Sunday.
Luis, why did you say that won't fly in Cape Cod? That's just mindset.
Well, I'm not in Cape Cod. I'm just saying that like having 400 people show up at an open house.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What do you mean? What do you mean it won't fly? It's you're the agent. You're representing the seller's best interest, not the buyer's best interest, not the buyer's agent's best interest, not your reputation, the seller's best interest.
My sellers don't want 400 people trancing through their house at once. So I understand the appointment part, but that's going to...
So Louise, here's what I can tell you. Now, let me just save you guys time and effort. It won't work for you. That's all I can tell you. Don't do it. It wouldn't work for you.
No, I have my own strategy, but I mean...
I'm not here to convince agents on what works. I can tell you we've sold $10 million houses in California that way. Now, are we going to get 800 people into a $10 million house? You're not. It is dependent on traffic or on size, right? So size of city. So like Josh Shanley in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, he gets about 100 people to an open house. Their population is like 60,000. So don't get me wrong and say, hey, you're in a small town, this or that, or the price range. Guess what? There aren't as many $2 million, $5 million, $10 million buyers. It doesn't matter what the number is. It's your job is real simple. How do I create demand for this house? Period. That's it. That's your job. And trust me, when we talk to agents or when we talk to sellers, I tell them that, hey, if you're interviewing other agents, the number one question you have to ask is, what are you going to do to create demand for my house? What are you going to do to create urgency? We actually have a little sheet that we give them. What are you going to do to create urgency for people to act fast? And how are you going to take and drive the price of my house up? That's what I need you to ask any agent you interview. Because when they ask those questions, we're going to kick their butt every time. All I'm doing is I'm setting the stage for any agent that follows behind me. Go ahead and answer that one. I dare you.
Mm-hmm. What does the T stand for?
I have agents tell me all the time, this doesn't work in my area. You don't do this. And then I get an agent in there. And, you know, I've got agents making $1 million a year doing this. So it's all mindset. Whatever your mindset is, you're right.
And you know, it can be adapted, I think, in some ways for different markets. But the idea is that we are in control of this process. And we've also set the expectation for our seller throughout the process. Right, Louise? And so, you know, not subscribing to everything that's being said, but there is some truth to the fact that we are the experts, and we are the ones that are setting the expectations. And we may have set expectations in the past, and maybe it's time to reevaluate some of those. Is the T for traffic?
Transparency.
Oh, okay. So it's
all of our offers are available real time online, and they see what they are.
Okay.
I've had agents tell me, well, my buyer doesn't want to do that. They don't want to see their offer transparent. It's like, well, cool. It's in our terms and conditions that they're going to agree to do it. If they don't submit an offer. I don't care. And see, when you have all these people in a house, you can be like that because they see it and go, well, he's right. He doesn't care. He's going to sell this thing.
All right. Hey, we've only got a couple minutes left. I want to hear other people that might have some agent objections in the attraction process. You know, as people are building out their team. Brian, Jenya, you know, do people have some specific objections that you've heard as you've been talking to people about EXP? Louise.
I've heard that, you know, we love our office, and I mean, I feel like I can answer that objection because a lot of EXP teams do have offices. So why not keep the office, lose the liability, lose the headaches of running a brokerage, right? And have more freedom to expand to other states. So I don't know if anyone else has anything else to add to that, like teams that do have offices that like that. Is there something else I could be adding to that?
My question would be, how many agents are in the office at any given time?
Yeah, well, it depends. Yeah, some of them are small, some of them are. I was talking to a 3-person office.
But you're writing the check. So this is about you. This is your expense as the broker, the owner, the team leader, whatever. So the question is, how many people are utilizing this office for how many hours a week? And when they're here, what do they do? Because here's what happens in most offices, if you don't know. People just kind of hang out, go to the office, don't really do much so that they can say, wow, I worked my butt off today. The really good agents never want to go into the office because all the other agents are asking them, how do I do this? How do you do this? How do you do that? So the really good ones avoid the office, or they're not in there because they're busy. So do you really want to continue to have this overhead for something that's not being utilized, or you're not maximizing your return on investment on that because people really aren't coming in here to work. They're coming in to look busy. Because like I'll break it down for them. Well, you know, out of your 10 or 15 agents, who's your top 3 producers? You know, so-and-so, right? Well, how much time do they spend in the office every week? Well, not really that much because they're out taking listings, doing this, doing that. Great. So who's in the office then? Well, your bottom 20%. So you're keeping this massive expense because trust me, as an owner, I was one. Your number one expense is the office, and you're keeping this office expense for the bottom 20% of your producers that generate the least amount of revenue for you. Am I understanding that correctly? So that's another little secret. You can make a statement and end it with a question. Hey, am I understanding? Does that make sense? Is that accurate? And you end it with a question, and then you stop and let them answer. You're gonna have the uncomfortable minute where, you know, it's uncomfortable, and you're gonna want to jump in. Don't.
Yeah, that's what's impossible. Let me ask you, just as we're wrapping up, I know that we had talked about sort of the napkin presentation, and I know in my local market, the largest local is a company, Kinlan Grover. They had 3 different companies, the Randall companies. They were purchased by Compass probably now, maybe 3 months ago. So many of the conversations, and these agents, a lot of them are pissed because if they'd gone to Compass 4 months ago, they would have been a vice president like everybody else. And
Right.
they also might have gotten a bump, right? Because they're just
Right.
buying people left and right. So the
Right.
ones that stayed are kind of pissed already. So we thought, great, we'll just like swoop in and have these conversations. But over and over and over, they go, you know what? We just want to wait because Compass keeps telling us that these amazing things are going to happen, and we're just and the technology is going to be great, and we feel like we just have to wait to see what they're going to deliver. And that I have not. I'm seeing Kareen shake her head because we've done some of our call times together. We don't have a great. We have not handled that as well as we could.
So I would go, hey, that's awesome. I totally get it. I really do. So my only, thought process in that is like, how much money will you lose in the meantime while you're waiting? And if they don't do what they say they're going to do, are you okay losing that kind of money? Now, what money are they losing? That's the stock, right? They're buying stock at a 10% discount. Listen, I have agents who don't recruit anybody but do good production, and they're not even icon agents. And they have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars of EXP stock that they've bought from their transactions. There's a cost to that. How much are you willing to lose while you're waiting? Don't do revenue share, any of that stuff. Just do that. And then how much will you lose in production because, well, you keep waiting for these great tools. And well, I would recommend go back, a couple, 3 years and do a little research on Compass and find out, well, that's what they've been saying for 3 years. So are you willing to wait 3 years for that to happen? Right. And you could kind of have that conversation like the database, like Tom talked about yesterday, and the value of that database. How long are you willing to lose money to do that? And then at what point will you get fed up and say enough is enough? And you just start laying that in their head. They might not make that decision today, but you're now planting seeds. So the first time they get ticked off, guess what they'll do? And that's why, same thing, guys, you have to understand what your value prop is. So in order to attract, you have to be attractive. Why do I want to come and work with you at EXP? You need to answer that because we do compete for agents from all the other companies, from good EXP teams. I'll be honest with you. We do a lot of stuff for our agents. Mm-hmm. If you're not prepared to compete with that, they'll come with us before they'd come with you. And, Michelle's license is 1003. We never had that in the early days, right? People would go, what's an EXP? Now they're going, hey, I'm talking to 3 or 4 different groups to see who can do the most for me. We hear that a lot now. You got to up your game. That's just the way it is.
Yep. And lean into your upline. Don't reinvent the wheel, guys. Lean into your upline and even lean into sideways. Go on that site I keep sending to my folks, Family Tree. There are huge efforts within our company to be part of cross family stuff, right? So just because we're not in the exact same family, we might be cousins, we might be whatever. It doesn't matter. We all get better when we all get better. So
not one of you is in my rev share group. I'm not in Tom's. Tom's not in mine. It's not how we work. It's not how we should work either, right? We should be doing what we do. If Tom calls me and asks for help, I'm just going to come. That's the way it is. That's how the good ones in our company do this. So don't have a scarcity mindset. Oh, I can't come and tell Tom what I'm doing. It's like, I'm an open book on everything I do. So you can't think that way, but you have to understand, you have to have a value proposition for buyers, sellers, and agents. Once you figure that out, what yours is, and we all have different strengths and things like that, right? For me, the D personalities are much more attracted to me because that's who I am, right? An engineer would go, oh my God, I could never work with that guy. It doesn't mean he's bad or I'm bad. It's not a good fit. Doesn't mean they can't come to EXP. So you just have to figure out what you do to become attractive to as many people as possible or as many agents as possible. And do it within your own personality, right? So for those of you that kind of know me, like if I was, just tell me about your kids. And I was like, oh, how old, right? Nobody's ever going to believe that's me. They'd be able to see through that, in 2 seconds. Marissa's in the car laughing at me because, yeah, that's what it is. But as long as you understand who you are, then stay with that. Know what your strength is. I appeal to a certain kind of person and other people could be totally repelled by it. That's okay. It's their loss. Just kidding.
I think that's so important. I just posted something this morning that, I think really success is driven by Really understanding who your perfect customer is, do some work on that. Who's the avatar? Who do you really love to work with? Buyers, sellers, and agents. What does that look like? That's important. That law of attraction is not like a Lifetime movie. It's kind of really true, right? And the longer you're around, the more you understand that. Number two, what's your value proposition? I think that we know this, but Bob brings up another point. Take some time. It's the weekend, this afternoon, you're out walking by yourself. Take some time to really think about. Write it down. What's your value proposition? What makes you unique? Why should someone want to work with you? Why would a buyer want to work with you? Why would a seller want to work with you? Let me tell you, I can tell you why. I know that. And that's part of my confidence because I've identified that stuff. I've written it down, And with an agent, what are you really offering? What are you doing? What's your value proposition? And then, really lastly, it's over deliver. Learn that from Tony Robbins. Always over deliver, under promise and over deliver. Always, always, always. So identify and love on your perfect customer, know what your value proposition is, and then over deliver.
And guys, let me just do one other thing, because as Lisa pointed out, figure out your value prop. You don't have to go out and reinvent, right? I know Tom and Marissa have a bunch of tools and training and coaching and everything, and we have all kinds of things. Don't reinvent that wheel. All you have to be is a conduit to that. Hey, and you've got a problem with KV Core or whatever. Well, let me show you who I would go to help you with that, right? All you really have to do is be a conduit, but just tell them it's available. Like in our group, we have 21 different coaches. And it sounds really cool, right? Do I know how many people use them? Almost none. I have a KV Core coach. I have a presentation coach. We have REO coaches. I have home boss coaches. We have all that. They hardly ever get used, but guess what? We highlight the heck out of it when we're recruiting.
I love that. Develop your list of what your coaches are. Adrian, I know he's on here. Adrian's our KV Core coach.
Right.
As long as, of course, we've got, Sylvia, but, really develop that list for yourself of those resources. We've got them. You may never be asked to identify what they are, but think about them. Think about that conversation when you are recruiting. I love that. That's really, really great. Well, anybody have one last thing they want to throw out? Otherwise, it's 12:02. Bob is wandering around the airport.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm sitting in Marissa's city.
Actually, you should log on to this one. It actually looks pretty good. Lisa Parento's putting it on. It's a master.
I'm going to turn it off. I had to mute Sherry there. I'm sorry, Bob, where did you say you were?
So go ahead, do one more.
Yeah. Does anyone have one more that they want to do? Okay.
Can I ask something?
Oh, yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, Nicole. Sorry, you had your hand up before. Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, how are you? So I'm starting to do like a lot of networking. And recently I have started to attract, some people that are a lot more experienced than I am. So I've been here for a year. I don't have listings yet. I've been doing a lot of rentals. I have my own, rental listing. But I actually came across a woman who has an independent broker. And I followed up with her after a networking event. And she was like, oh my God, you're a badass. I want to work with you. And I'm like, God, how do I get, I'm like, what will I tell her? So how do I get over my own objection where I don't have necessarily like the numbers to back it up, but she's already attracted to me. Like where do I even start?
Get Tom on the phone, get Marissa on the phone, get Lisa on the phone. So like what I tell all my people, if you have an independent broker, somebody who owns a company, you get me on the phone with them. I used to own that. I can speak their language. You wouldn't, and it's not anything bad against you, but you haven't done that. There's nothing wrong with saying, hey, let me get you with Tom. He used to own his own company too, and he was an independent and whatever, and kind of talk about what his experience has been, and then introduce and get out of the way.
And preferably, I want to get her soon because she just told me that she's got the biggest deal of her life with 176 units, 76 7 apartment buildings, 3 stories, and she's looking for an investor. So it'd be nice if I could get her before she got that.
Right. So that's how I would do it. Get when you've owned a brokerage, you can relate to him. Tom's owned a brokerage. You know what? If Tom's, and the other thing too, guys, is, at least at dinner last night, we kind of talked about the different personalities. Like my people know who to get on the phone with me and who not to put on with me.
Absolutely.
So if you got a D personality broker owner, they know, get him on the phone with Bob because he will close them. If you have some, high I person, I probably am not the best person. It's not that I can't fake it, but I want to get somebody who's on the call that's genuine. right? I might put Michelle on. I might get somebody else to do it because those two personalities will relate better to each other. And you can't take that personal and say, oh, I've got to be on every call. No, I'm not the right personality match for everybody. And so you start to form that network of people at EXP that have these different personalities because you'll need them at some point, right? The last guy you want to put on, a guy or gal, the last one that you want to put on with me, although I can do numbers and Excel spreadsheets with the best of them, but if you get two engineers to talk together, right, two analytical people, they're going to have more bond and more rapport, right? Rapport is the key to this. So don't let your ego get in the way that you have to be all things to all people and you're the only one who can do it.
Thank you.
Right? I tell people all the time, oh, they want to do, you need to talk to Kelly.
Thanks, Cindy.
So,
yeah, absolutely. I think, Nicole, that's so true. Like, look at who's in your corral. And when you have somebody that you think needs to speak, to a numbers person, my direct sponsor, Tom Trong, is a whiz at on-the-spot spreadsheets analysis, and when I need someone, even though I could do it, an expert is anyone who lives 100 miles away. Don't forget that. Right. So you need to find somebody who's in somewhere else that can come in. And the magic of all this is the three-way. So finding a good group of people you can lean into for a three-way. If someone wants to talk about luxury, someone wants to talk about top production, I'm a good person for one of those calls. But there's a lot of masters far better than me at all this.
And the other one, folks, I can just tell you, if you have kids, you're going to understand what I'm saying. You can tell your kids to do something until you're blue in the face and this is the right way to do it, and they just don't do it. Some complete stranger comes up and said, here, you should do this. And they go, oh, yeah, I started doing that. This is so awesome. It's the same thing with agents, right? You could be their friend or whatever it is, but guess what? They're going to listen to somebody else better than they're going to listen to you because you're trying to sell them at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So when I do a three-way call, we actually have a process in how we do it. And that process, you can go to YouTube and look up Casey Jiha Lake Tahoe. And so all I did, I had that transcribed. And there's a process that you do in a 30-minute phone call. But let somebody else do that phone call. You don't have to be the person. And even if you can do it, I still recommend don't do it because they will listen to somebody else more seriously. I don't know what that dynamic is in human nature, but it is what it is.
That's the truth. And anyone who's married knows that for a fact.
Yeah. And it's, I don't bother anybody. No. Our job is to get bothered. It's okay. We get paid to get bothered.
No kidding. Yeah.
Right. So.
Well, this has just been amazing, Bob. It's 12:08. We want to let you go. I know you have to go to the airport and we've all got to move on with our day, but this has just been an amazing, amazing mastermind with you. We really appreciate it. I'm going to give you like a huge hand. Thank you so much. I'm sure I'm joined by everyone. I would love to have you back for the Adult Monopoly. That would be great. There's so many things, and I hope you would maybe agree to that. And we look forward to the next time our paths cross for sure. I did put a link in the chat with some program on negotiation. It's like 15 free resources. If you want to click on that, I think everyone's in. Just scroll back up. Maybe I can put it back in. No, that's not it. Put it back in the chat. But again, Bob, you are just such a gem, and we so appreciate everything that you've done for us. And have very safe travels. And
Thank you.
Certainly look forward to the next time our paths cross.
Lisa, thank you for your leadership. Thank you for putting this together every Friday. Appreciate you. Love you, Bob. Safe travels home, brother. Talk to you soon.
I'll talk to you soon. All right. Bye-bye.
Take care, everybody.